Shoplifting here in the UK has become so bad that the government is teaming up with police and major retailers to try to tackle this problem once and for all. A meeting in Downing Street today to thrash out some details, which include a new national police unit funded in part by 13 leading brands from John Lewis to Co-op. The new plan, it's called Project Pegasus. It means retailers will have to stump up almost 800 grand in total over 2 years to fund this partnership. As it stands, 1,000 offences are being reported every day, yet only 1 in 8 are caught and charged. Much of this is linked to organised crime gangs, and it is costing stores £1 billion a year. In a moment, I'm talking to the former head of volume crime with the Metropolitan Police, Kevin Hurley, to ask him if this latest crackdown will work. But first, let's speak to Paul Gerrard, who's campaigns manager at Co-op, one of the worst affected chains. Repeatedly called on police to take these crimes more seriously. I know Co-op has invested money in body cameras for staff as well as CCTV, but says it's still losing more than £70 million a year. Extraordinary. And I've got to tell you, Paul, this Project Pegasus, this government scheme working with retailers like yourself and a few others, when we spoke about it in the newsroom, we were a bit like, asking the people who are worst affected to stump up the cash sounds a bit odd. I mean, are you behind it, obviously?
So look, retail crime is out of control. You referred to it as shoplifting there, Rosanna. What we're seeing in our stores every single day, we see 1,000 incidents every single day in our stores. We've seen 250,000 in the year to date. It's not shoplifting, it's organised looting. So as you said in the intro there, we spend £200 million over the last few years on body-worn cameras, on guarding, on product protection. But we've called on the police to do more. And actually, Operation Pegasus, I think, will help. I'm a former law enforcement officer myself for Manchester Customs and Excise. I think that kind of intelligence capacity will help. But it's only a small part of the investment that we're making. And in fairness to the police, it's only a small part of what they've announced today. The key thing that they've announced today is the Retail Crime Action Plan, where they are committing, as we've asked for, as the Co-op has asked for, they are committing to attending incidents in store where there's violence, incidents in store where there are prolific offenders who've been detained, and to attend stores to collect evidence. This is what we've been asking for, because as you just said, Rosanna, currently the police don't turn up in 70% of occasions we report serious crime to them.
Given that you've got a crime combating sort of career before you work for the Co-op, which is particularly interesting, how would you define what you see now? Is it a pattern that you've seen of this organised looting, or is it now an extraordinary moment?
But I didn't catch the end of that question.
Are you seeing, Paul, are you seeing that now is something extraordinary when it comes to, as you're calling it, organised looting, given that you have got that crime combating background as well? Or has it just been a sort of steady pattern?
No, I think we've seen a real shift in the last few months, and certainly speak to my colleagues who've been in retail for 20, 30 years. They've never seen anything like this, both in terms of the frequency, but also in terms of the nature. We are not seeing people in the main that is driving that 42% increase in Co-op stores. It's not people who are stealing a loaf of bread and a pint of milk. It's people who are stealing the entire meat section, the entire spirit section, the entire vape section, the entire household cleaning product section. They're stealing the whole lot in carrier bags, in a wheelie bin, in order to resell. And to do that, you've got to have a level of organisation yourself and access to an organisation to sell those stolen goods. So absolutely, we are seeing organisation here. And that's why I think Operation Pegasus, part of the police response, is important to understand those individuals, those organisations, so that then I hope the police will then deploy resources to.
Do you have faith that the government and the police are fully behind this project? They're not overly relying on you retailers to basically fund it for them and organise it for them?
Look, the first responsibility to keep shop workers and shops safe is for a business. It's why we spent £200 million. It's why the retail sector spent £1 billion last year. But there comes a point where you do need the police to step up and to provide things that only the police can provide. So, you know, we have specialist security teams who make citizens arrests. That's great. You still need the police to turn up to complete their arrest. And in 78% of cases at present, they don't turn up. So I am pleased with these announcements. The Co-op is pleased. I'm hoping it marks a day where shop workers and the shops that they work in, the communities that they both serve, can have a confidence that police will be there to protect them and to make sure that they continue to serve those communities.
Let's bring in Kevin Hurley now, who is former head of volume crime for the Metropolitan Police. Might be able to answer some of these questions for us. Kevin, so just hearing there, at 70% of cases, the police don't actually turn up. presumably because they're otherwise occupied. But give us a sense about policing these types of crimes.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. This has been a problem for many years, particularly for the co-op, who get actually major gangs attack them for cigarette raids and God knows what. The issue on this is quite simple. Police are massively under-resourced for what the demands are now on the police. If you look back to what happened under austerity, 2010 with Theresa May and the Conservative government, they cut 20,000 police officers and 24,000 civilian police staff off the books. They weren't enough police then, because I was in at that time. There weren't enough then. Where we are now is Boris's baby bobbies. He's got 20,000 of them, but these are inexperienced. They don't know really what they're doing. There's been no one really to train them on the job. And equally, they've still got a gap of 24,000 civilian staff. Now, what that means is that police officers have to come off the streets and do whatever those people used to do. So, for example, if police officers in the past arrested someone, you would have case progression officers, who quite often would be ex-detectives, who would come and deal with their prisoner, interview them, and do the case file. Well, these people don't exist anymore. So where we are now is a massively under-resourced police, massively under-resourced court system, massively under-resourced prison system, and a massively under-resourced probation system. So I'm not going to put any spin on this other than say the Conservatives bear a heavy responsibility for the damage they've done to law and order in this country. And this is just another example. You know, I just read today online, a group called My Local Bobby, a little security force, arrested someone carrying out shoplifting. They took them, because the police wouldn't come, Croydon police station. After 2 hours there, where there were no police officers available to even book them in or manage the case, they just let them go. So, you know, this is just spin. It's just spin by the Home Secretary. And it's very disappointing because you could apply this to every type of crime: burglary, motor vehicle crime, street robbery. You get what you pay for.
Kevin.
And when you've chopped out huge numbers of police, that's what you get.
I mean, no spin at all. You've been very clear on that. Just briefly, Kevin, before you go, do you have hope that any other type of government, potentially a Labour government, will take a different approach?
Well, if the money's available and they decide they're going to reinvest in police numbers, police training, the court system, the prisons, the probation, things might improve. But we're not talking a small amount of money here. We're talking huge amounts of money that need to be invested so that if someone is caught as part of a shoplifting gang, they actually go before the court quite promptly and get a custodial sentence instead of what they will get now. It's a long delay before they get to the court. And once they're at the court, they'll get a suspended sentence because the judges have been told not to send people to prison for anything other than extremely violent crime.
Kevin Hurley.
It's a bad and sad story.
It is indeed. Kevin Hurley, thank you for your time and expertise. Paul Gerrard as well. Thank you both.